Welcome back for another video. Final thoughts ahead of Gameweek 21, answering the biggest questions and dilemmas this week, as well as covering the key news from the press conferences and my final team selection. So let's talk about the double Gameweek first then. Literally just announced by the Premier League, and we do love a double Gameweek round it. Everton and Liverpool's postponement has moved into Gameweek 24. So Everton's double will be home to Leicester and then home to Liverpool. Liverpool's double will be away to Bournemouth and away to Everton. So we'll all have Salah captain. Do you triple captain him though? Well, if you've still got the chip, then yeah, using it on Salah looks like the obvious play, and you save the assistant manager chip for later. What's the best assistant manager strategy then if you've used your triple captain? Well, the chip lasts 3 weeks. Unfortunately, in Gameweek 25, Liverpool are home to Wolves, which is perfect, you can keep hold of him. But in Gameweek 26, Liverpool are away to City. So one approach is you sell slot for Arteta, who's home to West Ham, or you chase the team bonus by going for someone like Glasner or Pereira if their opponents are 5 places above them still. Remember, with the assistant manager chip, if their opponent is 5 or more places above them in the Premier League table, you get an extra 10 points if they beat them, or 5 extra points if they draw. So if you fancy Palace to beat Fulham, or Wolves to beat Bournemouth, etc., then there's an opportunity there. Alternatively, Arteta home to West Ham is the safer bet. Brentford have got Leicester away as well. So buying slot does use up a Liverpool spot, so you need to own 2 players maximum from Liverpool. I think Salah and Trent make the most sense. If you're not using your assistant manager chip, then the third Liverpool player is really up in the air. I think Van Dijk's a great option, or Gakpo and Diaz for more upside. There's nothing wrong with going double defence in a double game week. They can be low scoring games, and historically defenders have done consistently well in doubles. I mean, who remembers the Arsenal defenders getting 20 plus last season? Ben White got something crazy like 26 points. As far as Everton assets, you really count on that Leicester game, but it is a good fixture. Moyes should get them playing more attractive attacking football, and I think Ndiaye is a left field shout that I've thrown in here. McNeil's good if he's back by then, or you go for a defender like Tarkowski, Mikalenko and Pickford. Drop your early thoughts on the double game week in the comments below. So first question from JD, who asked who the best Jesus replacement is, and I guess also an opportunity to talk about the forwards as well in general. In case you missed it, he was stretched off in the FA Cup game against Man United. Could be a bad one, it might be a ligament tear, based on the reaction anyway. So putting the obvious Isak aside, the 2 players I've got here are Mateta and Wood. Wood 6.8 mil, Mateta 7.2 mil. To be honest, neither of their underlying data has been impressive recently, but there's not many forwards anyway right now, and they have done similarly. Over the last 6 game weeks, Mateta's taken 12 shots to Wood's 11. Both have had 8 shots in the box, and they've both had 3 big chances. 1.79 XGI for Mateta to Wood's 1.5. Mateta's got the better fixture, so he'd be my number 1 and Wood number 2. Honourable mention to Solanke, who'd be my number 3 pick, though much like Wood, he's got a rough fixture this week. He's away at Arsenal, and he costs the most of the 3. If you've got good depth in your team, then you could always bench them for this week, and then make a move in Gameweek 22 with an extra week of info. Though in Mateta's case, you'd miss a great fixture against Leicester, but in the other 2 cases, you'd be buying them at a better entry point. Just on Isak as well actually, since I mentioned, quote here from Fantasy Football Scout, Hal was asked about injuries in the team and he said, I wouldn't say major injury news. Jacob Murphy felt his calf slightly so we withdrew him. Willock felt his hip slightly so we withdrew him. And Botman had an ongoing groin complaint, but he's going to be okay. And the same with Isak, we hope he'll be okay. So it's a pretty murky answer on Isak, and he wasn't named in the FA Cup squad at all, and Hal is really unreliable in his press conferences to be fair. A bit further discussion on the forwards then. FPL Noah asked what to do with João Pedro and Jackson. So first of all, João Pedro then. Herzler said he picked up an ankle injury in training and he went for an MRI scan. And João Pedro has since tweeted, scan okay with a check mark, so make of that what you will. He's not guaranteed to play, however he's got to be a hold given how cheap he is, with reasonable fixtures and he's on penalties. Herzler is similar to Howe in many ways, he's not great in his press conferences. That said, Brighton's press conference isn't until after the deadline anyway on Wednesday, so we're not actually going to be able to act on whatever's said then. Keep an eye in case anything else comes out from other sources, maybe he's spotted in training. Likewise, I think Jackson is probably worth holding for one more week, given he is home to Bournemouth after all. And then you've got the option of Wood and Solanke after that, once their bad fixtures out of the way, or you could go with Mateta anyway. The only player that I'd probably sell him for this week is Mateta, whereas by waiting a week you've got 3 solid options to choose from. Question from Luco, who asks who are the best defenders right now. So if I was wildcarding, what's my back 5 looking like? The 5 that I'd have are Trent, Gabriel, Munoz, Hall and Castagna, so from most to least expensive. Obviously there's a lot of talk about Trent leaving for Real Madrid and that bad performance against Man United, and he played with the B team in the FA Cup, though he did score a brilliant goal from outside the box. He's not an issue until he is, and he's playing for the best or second best defence in the league with the best underlying numbers of all defenders. And likewise, Gabriel's in the top 2 defence, depending on who you've got first, Liverpool or Arsenal. Munoz and Hall have got amazing fixtures and really attacking defenders for under 5 mil, both of them. And lastly, Castagna. I actually originally had Anderson in here and I decided to re-record this bit. Tete was initially expected back mid-February, which would have put me off Castagna, as it's only another month now. But it's now being reported today that he'll be back late March to early April, so Castagna's looking worth it over Anderson now, given how much more attacking he is. FPL haven't actually dropped the scout selection yet, which we normally cover in these, though they did do a scout wildcard, so let's have a look at that to see what the scout has as the best team right now. It's Sells and Valdemarsson in goal, it's Gabriel Hall, Munoz, Mikalenko and Greaves in defence, Salah, Palmer and Bumo Gordon and Sarr in midfield, Isaac, João Pedro and Raul Jimenez up front. It's pretty close to the wildcard 5 that I said I'd have. I'd find room for Trent in this, and I'd probably go for Bruno over Mbumo. João Pedro's flag is fine here, because obviously he could drop to the bench if he doesn't play anyway. I've not added up the total team value here, but it looks like they might have limited themselves heavily in budget, because my team structure is quite similar to this, but I've got Raya, Trent and Wood as upgrades. Not a bad team, but there's a few players I'd change. What do the markets say for Gameweek 21 then? Graphic from Rob T. So looking at projected goals first, Newcastle, Arsenal and Man United all projected 2.55 goals. Can't remember the last time we had a 3-way tie, which does show the spread of captaincy options this week. Liverpool have got 1.9 projected goals away at Forest, City have got 2.35 against Brentford and Chelsea 2.2 against Bournemouth. Man United the favourites for a clean sheet with a 44% chance against Southampton, and then it's Newcastle, Arsenal, Liverpool and Villa. So on the subject of captaincy, Ryo Toffee asks who the best captain pick is with a 100% guarantee of success. Well, no one's guaranteed success obviously. I mean Salah once blanked him, was it an 8 or 9-0 win over Bournemouth, so everything's possible. We've got a new section here though, ranking the best captain picks every week. And number 1, I've actually got Salah. At the end of the day, he's the most informed player in the world right now. He's 56 points ahead of anyone else in the game. So although it's Forest away, so potentially tricky game, he's playing so well this season. I do think permacaptain Salah is not a bad strategy. 79 minutes per expected goal involvement after 19 games played is absolutely crazy. Putting Salah aside, I've actually got Palmer number 2. He does have the second most points this season. And he's who I've currently got the captain of myself because of the upside he offers against the Salah captainers. That's the only thing with this segment, it kind of depends what kind of manager you are and if you're chasing or if you're looking to consolidate. Just thinking out loud, maybe I should label these the obvious pick, the upside pick, and some third category. If you pay attention to market odds or projected points, they do have Palmer favoured as well over Salah. So he's the analytics pick for sure. As is Bruno, he's probably the maximum upside pick. Home to Southampton, under 10% owned. And Southampton really haven't shown any improvement under Juric really. A 5-0 drubbing home to Brentford last match. And Man United are going to be high on confidence knocking Arsenal at the FA Cup. So where's Isaac then? Well, given the uncertainty of the injury, he's a bit risky now. Just in case, worst case scenario, his minutes are managed and he plays 60 for example, or he comes off the bench even. It's probably still likely that he starts, but you never know with how, so it's a risk too far for me. Last question from Bobby, who asks, out of all the managers, which cheap manager might be a solid pick? In reference to the assistant manager chip. So looking at the cheaper ones specifically, I think Glasner's got to be the standout, since they're still 15th in the table. As a reminder, if you use the chip on a manager and they play against a team 5 or more places above them in the table at the deadline, then you get 10 extra points per win and 5 for a draw. We'll have to see how Potter and Moyes get on as well, given they're only 0.5 mil and way down the table as well. I think Amarin for a 0.8 mil's got a lot of potential as well if he gets Man United clicking. This season, Slot's got the most points with 159, and then Howe 153, Silva with 150, Areola 147, and then Nuno 146. The chip's only available in Gameweek 24 of course, so this is hypothetical how they would have scored so far. Let's dig even deeper. FPL Benchwarmers made a really cool graphic I just saw this morning, measuring how managers would have got on last season each game week. I'll link his profile in the description. Some of the scores here are absolutely wild. Glasner in Game Week 34 would have scored 41 points, and that's just that one game week. It's a 3-week chip, so he would have got 67 points if he got that perfect there. I mean, that's beyond season defining. I do have a feeling this chip's going to single-handedly decide who wins FPL for better or worse. Like if you're 1k and you pick the absolute perfect week, like Glasner last season, you could win FPL from that one decision. There's no such thing as a comfortable lead in FPL now really. I remember Jonas last season, he walked it about 40 or so points ahead in the final few weeks, but that can be quickly erased with this chip. As we said earlier, if you've used your triple captain already, then using it on slot, it seems to be the obvious approach for the double Gameweek24. You would have to sell him straight away though because they've got City. It's a chip that has to be used in a double Gameweek really because of how powerful it is. So that's last season then. Another resource, fplticker.com's got a segment that tracks how managers would have gotten this season by game week and also projected points for future game weeks. There's some crazy runs this season so far. I mean, obviously no one was going to use it on Areola for City, Villa and Arsenal, let's be honest. But that stretch of 3 single game weeks would have got you 47 points. McKenna has 30 points from the last 2 games for Ipswich, as does the new Wolves manager Pereira over the last 3. The last point to make on this is the chip's not available yet and the table might look quite different by the time it's available, so make sure you are subscribed for a deeper discussion nearer the time. Right, let's rattle through a few bits of team news from today's press conference and then I'll go through my final team. Potter says that Fulkrug's out for a while after suffering a serious injury, Emerson's back but Somerville's touch and go, and Bowen remains sidelined. Potter's got a real task on his hands, coming in mid-season with lots of injuries to deal with as well. Bowen is definitely someone I'd love to have back in my team later in the season if he gets them playing well. Ndidi and Hermansen are notable absentees for Leicester, which is perhaps another reason to consider Mateta and Eze that we mentioned earlier. Sara and Munoz as well. Leicester have conceded 17 goals since Van Nistelrooy took charge. Only Southampton have conceded more over that run. Injuries at Bournemouth. Evan Nilsson's been ruled out for a long time, Unal's out for the season. So we're going to see one of the wingers up top against Chelsea and beyond that. Maybe they'll sign another striker this window. 4.5 mil forward Jebuson's been recalled from his Watford loan, though he didn't score a single goal there. He played something like 17 games as well. Kep is also unavailable to play against his parent club. Good news if you've got Diaz or Gakpo. Darwin is suspended for Gameweek21, so their minutes look a bit better, assuming Jota starts on the bench anyway. Either way, it's one less option to come on early for them. Gomez is still out with a hamstring injury. Konate recently returned from injury though. Finishing up with some final thoughts on my team then and transfer plans. For Gameweek21, it's Raya, Trent, Gabriel Munoz, Gordon, Salah, Erdegaard, Palmer, Semenyo, Wood and Isak. Fabianski, Colwill, Strand, Larson and Greaves on the bench. So given the Bournemouth injuries, I am tempted to play Colwill over Semenyo and just back the clean sheet, but I don't know right now. I'm really on the fence about this one. I've got just one free transfer as well, 0.4 mil in the bank, and there's 2 options that I'm considering. Option 1 is Erdegaard to Bruno to target that Southampton game. After that as well, they're home to Brighton again, so it's a really nice pair of fixtures, especially given Igor, Kadioglu, Lamptey and Dunk are all flagged at the moment. Some of those could be back for it. The other option is to roll the transfer and just pray that Bruno doesn't go ballistic against the Saints, because using 2 moves, I could instead sell Erdegaard for Eze and upgrade Strand Larsen to Solanke. Palace have still got the fixtures to buy Eze or any other assets in Gameweek22 or later. And Spurs have got a nice fixture run as well that I quite like from Gameweek22. Everton, Leicester, Brentford, Man United and Ipswich. Further to that, if Spurs can knock Liverpool out of the League Cup, they'll have a blank in Gameweek29. Now that might not happen, though they are 1-0 up from the first leg. However, if it did happen, there's actually a good chance they reschedule that blank to Gameweek25 as a double game week for Spurs. It's probably about 40% likely. It also depends on how Spurs get on in their final couple of Europa League games. If they do well, then they should have 3 midweeks for Gameweek25. So that's another small reason that rolling's really tempting, and I'm really stuck on this one this week. I'm probably 60% likely to go for Bruno and 40% likely to roll, but I've got another day to think about it anyway. Palmer captain, Salah vice currently. Chelsea boosted by James and Lavia returning to the squad. No Kepa or Evan Nilsson for Bournemouth. So it does feel like an opportunity to take the chance on some upside, so Palmer captain. Good luck this game week everyone, and hit subscribe for more content like this every game week all season. We'll be live right here for the deadline on Tuesday as well. See you all then.